bunnies, today we're talking all about Happy Rainbow. From its real-life inspirations to coords you've probably never even heard of, I've found everything there is to know. There will be minor spoilers for the Aikatsu anime, so if that's okay with you, let's get started. Happy Rainbow has been an inherently difficult brand to research. Since it's a pop brand, you're probably not surprised that its closest fashion style is Pop K, which we briefly covered in the Vivid Kiss deep dive. But it's not just Pop K, and it's not decor either if you're familiar with that J fashion style. Instead, Happy Rainbow has taught me the true meaning of pop in Japanese fashion. See, it can't just be Pop K because pop as a style was a lot darker and grungier in the early 2010s, when the brand was developed around 2011. More comic influence, heavier use of black, and trending toward pastels rather than Happy Rainbow's saturated colors. You can find 2010 and 2011 fashion that looks vaguely like Happy Rainbow, but no exact matches to its cleaner, brighter style. Rather than fashion, we need to be looking at pop culture, specifically children's pop culture. TV shows, toys, games, snacks, any consumer product goes. I found a lot more matches to Happy Rainbow in early 2010's custom doll magazines and children's anime series. Precure, the long-running magical girl series aimed at young girls, seems to have been a particularly strong influence. The rainbow theme of its most recent movie series, the active yet feminine designs of its characters, and the saturated colors of its environments can all be found in Happy Rainbow. And we can go even deeper into this influence because it doesn't stop there. Happy Rainbow's use of graphic shapes and patterns share Pop K's roots in 1980s and 1990s trends. But for Happy Rainbow, it's less about real fashion and more about nostalgic toys and media franchises, which has made it incredibly difficult to research in greater detail. Even for the 2010s anime I was researching, kids media is not well documented online. Add a language barrier, and finding nostalgic Japanese kids media is a bigger challenge than I had time to tackle. Aikatsu's designers would have had their own childhood memories, local resources, and physical items to reference that I'd never be able to find. I'd imagine dolls, toys, and children's fashion would be the biggest influences, but I think I got pretty close regardless. The era up to 1989 is referred to as Showa Retro. It's the era most associated with bold, saturated colors, the first magical girls, and clean graphic designs. Happy Rainbow clearly pulls from this Showa Retro aesthetic in its own colors and patterns. Then things get fuzzy because in some parts of the world, nostalgic franchises like Rainbow Bright fit perfectly into that Showa Retro era, but since some of them came out in Japan after 1989, they get lumped in with the modern Heisei era, which is only a problem if you're doing intensive research into them and don't know what search terms to use. The Showa Retro style is a strong influence in Pop K, especially in beloved pop brands like Mezzo Piano, 6% Doki Doki, Peace Now, and Coco Lulu. Maybe it's obvious, but connecting these dots helped me understand that pop culture and nostalgia are the true core of Pop K. Recreating childhood and twisting it in different directions is what drives the style as a whole. And for Happy Rainbow, it was all about the designer's own childhoods in the 1980s and 90s, plus a few modern references. The only detail I couldn't quite figure out is the fruit theme. Maybe there's a popular fruit theme franchise I couldn't identify, or maybe Strawberry Shortcake was bigger in Japan than I was able to find. But if I had to guess, I'd say it's an attempt to be slightly more health conscious. Aikatsu is a health conscious series and goes out of its way to promote healthy eating habits. So if you told me that a 2011 Bandai executive insisted on replacing a candy theme with a fruit one, I'd believe you. Now we have to get into the other incredibly difficult part of my Happy Rainbow research, the inspiration for Happy Rainbow's top designer, Nijigahara Makoto. To put it lightly, Makoto fits into a Japanese character archetype that stereotypes gay men. There is an entirely different cultural context behind that character archetype than similar ones I recognize from American media. There is also an entirely different historical context behind this archetype than similar ones that I recognize. The name of this character archetype is currently subject to public scrutiny for its derogatory implications, so just in case it's offensive, I won't be mentioning it in any further detail. If you would like to know more about real gay men in Japan, I can tell you that gay men are currently advocating for the Onne label, as in the title for older sister without the san honorific. And I'm attaching links to the Tokyo Rainbow Pride and Stonewall Japan organizations in the description if you'd like to know more about the progress of LGBTQ+ protections and civil rights in Japan. Since unfortunately there are no legal protections for LGBTQ+ people on a national level. I'm sure that there is a more specific inspiration for Makoto as a character out there somewhere. I noticed similar characters are common villains in children's anime, and Makoto's name could very well be a reference to Matsuko Deluxe, one of the most famous cross-dressing entertainers on Japanese TV. But digging any deeper was very difficult, as both a foreigner and a lesbian, since the line between bigotry and authentic expression in a different cultural context was beyond my ability to navigate. Luckily, we can discuss Makoto as an individual character with more certainty. All the Aikatsu official guidebook has to say about him is that he's a lively character, but we can figure out more details about him. As the head of Happy Rainbow, Makoto is a successful fashion designer with the resources to turn his studio into a private water park. The branded slides and meticulously trimmed topiary show his commitment to his bold, energetic style, and his statue of himself shows his pride in his success. In the Aikatsu Card All Collection 2013 first season book, Makoto is given the following quote about his brand. "The most important thing about tropical colors is the color scheme. I try to use a color scheme that is fun to look at, so that it doesn't look too noisy even though it's full of tropical colors. I also add motifs that are exciting, such as fruits and sweets." We know that Makoto is a romantic at heart who is or was very close with his father, but he's also extremely professional and organized, balancing the carefree tone of his art against the demands of a high-stress fashion career. That's why when he's nearly late to an appointment with a student from the local idol school, Makoto is upset about being knocked over by a girl in the street. She crashed directly into him and nearly caused an injury, so he lashes out before the old lady she's carrying asks for directions. As soon as he's done helping them, he races back to his studio. The student he's meeting is 10 minutes late and turns out to be the same girl he'd run into earlier. Her name is Arisuga Otome, and she brushes past both their disastrous encounter and her lack of punctuality with an overly friendly greeting. The entire appointment was meant to be a request for a collaboration, in which Makoto would give Otome his newest premium dress in exchange for brand promotion. But between the near injury she caused him and her willingness to waste his time, Makoto concludes that Otome isn't nearly responsible enough to be working with him. Even worse, the friends she's brought with her start arguing with him in his own studio, as if they were entitled to all of his hard work. Luckily, Otome calms her friends down and acknowledges her fault in losing the opportunity. Makoto is about to cut her a bit of slack when she suddenly pulls out a pendant he'd safely tucked in a drawer. It was his father's pendant, a memento from a childhood love story and a treasured source of inspiration for him. Horrified, Makoto snatches the pendant back from her and runs to check the drawer's contents. To his surprise, the pendant is right where he left it, making the one in his hand an identical piece. Makoto is confused about the coincidence, but Otome explains that it was given to her by the old woman she'd been carrying. An old woman who had looked about the same age as his father. She'd been searching for a camphor tree, the same kind of tree from his father's story, and Makoto connects the dots. His father had given a matching pendant to the girl who confessed to him all those years ago. He tells the story to Otome and her friends and is touched to see the pendants reunited. They're in immaculate condition, proof of how special the gift had been to both parties. Makoto had always felt inspired by his father's sentimentality, but finding out that it had been reciprocated all along made it blissfully sweet. Just as he's savoring that heartwarming discovery, Otome offers Makoto the second pendant. Makoto is surprised. It was hardly a gesture he expected after their terrible first and second impressions of each other. But Otome insists that Makoto's father would have wanted the pendants to be reunited in the end, and Makoto is touched by her understanding. "Love is everything," he says tearfully, and Otome gets emotional as well. "Love is power." They both are on the same page after that. "Love is eternal." Makoto hurries to prepare the dress that Otome requested, and then she's whisked away by her friends for another appointment. After observing her genuine belief in love and surprising level of maturity, Makoto is sure that she's on the right track after all. The next time Makoto sees Otome is a few months later at the end of spring. She drops by unannounced and emphatically insists that she must have a new Happy Rainbow dress to share her love with the brand with the world. Overwhelmed by her passion, Makoto hurries to calm her down and offer her his most recent dress. He has been keeping an eye on her activities after all, and she has made a lot of progress as an idol and a brand ambassador. So he lets Otome have the dress before it's even been announced and sends her on her way. He even connects her friend with one of his own designer friends, Green Grass. Over the next 2 years, Makoto keeps in contact with Otome. She grows so much and accomplishes so much that he has no reservations about designing dresses specifically for her. When he participates in a Zodiac-themed brand collaboration, he immediately thinks of Otome for inspiration on a tourist dress. He wants to take the design's earthy, luxurious concept and make it as sweet as possible. Since the collaboration is a big event between many of his fellow designers, Makoto personally designs a stage set to match the tourist dress, but he's still struggling with it by the time he calls Otome to formally offer her the collaboration opportunity, and he does his best to assure her that there's nothing to worry about. Sure enough, he decides to pay her a visit for inspiration and ends up inspired by the image of her playing on a playground slide. He adds a slide to the stage for her, and the design is complete. At the dress's debut event, Makoto states his inspiration to the audience. Happy rainbow, prism of smiles. I believe that things as colorful as rainbows have the power to brighten a person's day and make them happy. I started this brand because I wanted to create a fashion that embodied that ideal, and I believe in Arisugawa Otome's ability as an idol to fit that image perfectly. Lollipop Taurus is a coord I created in Otome's image. I'm sure that both she and this dress will charge you all with happiness. Otome loves the slide, and the dress, and the entire performance, so Makoto is safe in feeling very proud of his work. Otome even receives a backstage visit from a childhood friend, and Makoto is touched by their heartfelt reunion. After this, we mostly see Makoto in the company of other designers. He was once invited to a special designer-only holiday party, he attends several design conferences, and he keeps up with the local idol school's new students. Although his character was likely created for comic relief and the contrast between his happy aesthetic with his strict personality, we see that Makoto is surprisingly grounded. Motivated by the love of his family, he works to spread love and happiness to others through art. He uses his sharp professionalism to enforce high standards, and his effort and passion pay off in the success of his brand. As long as someone is willing to match those crucial values, Makoto is happy to see them succeed as well. Happy Rainbow's official concept reads, like colorful candies, pop coloring, and pretty designs, anyone can smile spontaneously. The Happy Rainbow brand, like a rainbow lighting up the blue sky, features vivid colors and fruit motifs which go well with active girls. Please enjoy the dresses that actively address your personality. The brand includes 25 coords, with one more Happy Amity added in Aikatsu on Parade. The mobile game Aikatsu Photo on Stage also added 40 more coords for a grand total of 66 coords. Its premium rares are Tropical Basket, Marble Candy, and Lollipop Taurus. It has 4 constellation coords, Lollipop Taurus, Night Dreamer, Pizza Parlor, and Emerald Taurus. And finally, it has 1 romance story coord, Dream Carriage. For once, I've already covered a brand's photokatsu rankings in a ranking video, so check that out next if you're interested in some really fun designs. As we see in its lack of story, fever, and boom coords, Happy Rainbow was phased out during the 3rd season of the anime. It was largely replaced by Vivid Kiss, especially once Vivid Kiss becomes a main character brand with the introduction of Hineki. There was already a lot of overlap between Happy Rainbow and Magical Toy, the other original series pop brand, and Vivid Kiss absorbed both of those brands for the most part. Even during the 2nd season, when Happy Rainbow was still active with Otome as a supporting cast member, focus was shifted to Magical Toy since that brand was smaller at the time. It is notable that the biggest motif to fall away in those transitions was the candy or fruit theme. Since it wasn't on trend to begin with as far as I could find, it makes sense that Happy Rainbow would be gradually replaced by concepts that were more popular at the time, like Amekaji and the pastel pop styles. That trend would continue into Aikatsu Stars. If Happy Rainbow were to continue further into the series, it would almost have to be with Otome. Generally speaking, Aikatsu brands are intended to be character specific. The only times we see characters share brands is when the brand is more popular than expected and its associated character is no longer relevant to the main story. So we get Madoka continuing the extremely marketable Angel Sugar branding, Sumire continuing Lily Gothic, and Hineki expanding on Vivid Kiss. Same thing for Maria expanding Aurora Fantasy, and Key expanding Magical Toy. Since Happy Rainbow overlaps so much with the other pop brands already, and it was a struggle for even new brands like Mecha Panic to get established, it's unlikely that Bandai would have muddied the pop waters even further by assigning a new character to an old brand like Happy Rainbow. Still, we can all imagine plenty of alternative paths that the brand could have taken instead. If you love Happy Rainbow, make sure to check out my Happy Rainbow ranking next. And look out for my story dress ranking next week. Bye bye!
Thank you, お姫様ハニー